Iris drew maps for the county surveyor from her small, dusty office. She had never left Willow Creek because her mother needed daily care. Her maps were precise but lifeless, drawn from old notes and guesswork. One day, a man walked into her office tapping a wooden walking stick. His name was Jacob, and he was blind from a riding accident years ago. He had tracked cattle across the entire territory using only his feet. He said, "I need a map of the northern pass for a cattle drive." Iris laughed and said, "I have never seen that pass, sir, not once." Jacob said, "I have seen it with my hands and my ears completely." He said, "You draw, and I will describe, and we will make something true." Iris hesitated because trusting a blind man's memory seemed foolish at first. But her curiosity won, and she spread a fresh sheet of paper out. Jacob closed his eyes and began to walk slowly around her small office. He said, "The northern pass has a creek that bends like a sleeping snake." Iris drew a winding blue line, and he corrected the angle of its curve. He said the canyon walls rise steeply on the left, crumbling limestone mostly. She drew hash marks for rock, and he nodded as if he could see them. He said there is an old oak tree at the bend, split by lightning once. She drew a gnarled shape, and he smiled because her hand was learning his world. They worked for 3 hours without touching, only voices and pencils moving. Iris realized her map had more life than any she had ever drawn before. Jacob asked if she could feel the wind on that ridge without being there. She admitted she had never felt mountain wind, only the breeze from her window. He said, "Then you are missing the most important part of any landscape entirely." The next day he took her to the edge of town where the prairie began. He said, "Close your eyes, Iris, and tell me what the land says to you." She closed her eyes and felt stupid, standing there with a blind man grinning. But then she felt the grass tickle her ankles and the sun on her neck. She heard a hawk cry and smelled sage from somewhere far away. She whispered, "I hear the land breathing, Jacob, like a giant sleeping animal." He said, "Yes, that is what maps should capture, not just lines and numbers." She opened her eyes and looked at him with a new kind of respect. He could not see her face, but he felt her gaze shift toward him. He said, "You are looking at me differently now, and I cannot see why." She said, "Because you taught me that blindness is not a lack of sight." He tilted his head and asked what blindness is, then, if not missing eyes. She said, "Blindness is refusing to feel the world with your whole body." Jacob laughed and said, "You are the strangest mapmaker I have ever met." She said, "You are the first blind man who ever taught me how to see." They began meeting every day, drawing and walking and describing the world together. Jacob took her to the creek, the ridge, the abandoned mine, the buffalo wallow. Iris drew each place with her eyes closed, then opened them to add details. She learned that his memory of a slope was more accurate than any survey. He learned that her hand could translate his feelings into beautiful, lasting lines. One evening she drew his face without telling him, just from memory alone. She traced his closed eyelids, his strong jaw, the scar above his left brow. He heard her pencil moving and asked what she was drawing so quietly. She said, "I'm drawing the first thing I ever truly saw without using my eyes." He reached out and touched her cheek, his fingers reading her face like braille. He said, "You have a small dimple near your mouth when you are lying." She laughed and admitted she was drawing him, and his ears turned red. He said, "No one has ever drawn my face since I went blind 10 years ago." She said, "Then I will draw it every day until my pencil wears down completely." He asked if she meant that, or if she was just being kind to a cripple. She took his hand and placed it over her heart so he could feel her truth. His fingers felt her heartbeat racing, and he finally believed her words fully. He said, "I think I am falling in love with you, Iris the mapmaker." She said, "I think I fell in love when you described the sleeping Snake Creek." They kissed for the first time in the middle of an unmapped prairie field. Jacob could not see her face, but he felt her smile against his lips. She whispered that a map of their love would need only one dot on it. He asked where, and she said, "Right here, because home is not a place. They returned to her office and drew a map of the entire valley together. Iris labeled every feature Jacob had taught her with tiny handwritten notes. She wrote Jacob's Creek on the bend and Blind Man's Ridge on the hill. He asked if that was cruel, and she said, "It is honest, like your heart." The county surveyor saw their map and offered Iris a permanent position. She refused because she wanted to keep drawing with Jacob, not for strangers. He said, "You cannot give up your career for a blind tracker like me." She said, "I am not giving up anything. I am choosing a better path entirely." They started a business together, creating sensory maps for blind travelers. Jacob tested each map with his feet, while Iris refined every single detail. Their maps sold across the territory, helping other blind people navigate safely. One night, Jacob asked her to marry him while standing on his favorite ridge. He had no ring, so he gave her a smooth stone from the creek bed. She said yes and cried because the stone was warmer than any diamond ever. He asked how she knew the stone was warm without seeing its color first. She said, "Because you held it in your pocket for a week before giving it." He blushed and admitted he had carried it for 2 weeks, nervous and hopeful. They married on the ridge with the sun setting behind their joined shadows. The preacher asked Jacob if he took Iris to have and to hold forever. Jacob said, "I will hold her even though I cannot see her, every single day." The preacher asked Iris if she took Jacob in sickness and in health completely. She said, "I took him the moment he taught me to close my eyes and feel." They built a small cabin at the edge of the mapped prairie together. Jacob built the furniture by touch, and Iris painted the walls with bright colors. She described each color to him in terms of temperature and texture instead. Blue was cold and smooth like creek water. Yellow was warm like fresh bread. Jacob learned to see colors through her words, and he loved yellow best. She asked why, and he said, "Because you described yellow with your happiest voice." Their first child was a son with Jacob's strong hands and Iris's seeing eyes. The boy grew up knowing his father was blind, but could find any trail. He also knew his mother drew maps that helped people who could not see. One day, the son asked Jacob if he wished he could see his wife's face. Jacob said, "I see her every time she laughs, and that is better than eyes." Iris overheard and cried into her coffee cup, overwhelmed by his gentle love. They grew old together, and their maps became treasured heirlooms across the West. On Jacob's deathbed, he asked Iris to draw one last map with his voice. She took her pencil and paper, and he described a valley made entirely of light. He said, "That is where I am going, and I will wait for you there." She drew a river of gold and hills of soft green, crying as she worked. He reached for her hand and whispered, "Thank you for drawing my invisible world." She said, "Thank you for giving me a world worth drawing, my blind hero." He smiled and stopped breathing, his hand still wrapped around her pencil. Iris finished the map alone and hung it above their bed for the rest of her life. The camera pulls back to show a blind man's walking stick leaning against a detailed map.